what I'm going to say, considering that I'm not really speaking of developing countries or developed countries only, because most of the main concern and focus of my work is really on indigenous peoples. You know, I'm an indigenous person from the Cordillera region in the Philippines, and as many of you will know, indigenous peoples are the ones who have least contributed to this problem of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions increase, and yet now our communities are the ones where they are sort of finding solutions also to the problems, and this is also creating a lot of adverse impacts on us. So I think I'd like to take it from the vantage point of differential impacts of climate change, and therefore differential solutions or contributions and obligations in relation to what we can do. So I'll start by saying that indigenous peoples in various parts of the world, whether on the Arctic or even in the small island states, are really the ones who have already observed at a very early stage the impacts of climate change, and they are the ones who have, especially the ones in the Arctic, they are the ones who have actually called the clarion call that there is something wrong with climate, and they are seeing on a day-to-day basis the change in their lives, and so. Then we started thinking about this and looking into the impact. And when Sam, for instance, says that even if you are a poor country, there are still the rich in your country who have to have obligations. I agree with that, but I was thinking a small island state which is sinking, you know, like now we have, in fact, we have representatives from Catholic Island in the Pacific who are now 3,000 people. Their island is really sinking, and they are wanting to negotiate with Bougainville if they can move to that country. So that's an issue I think that has to be dealt with, because if we differentiate the countries, this is a problem, and several indigenous people from the Pacific came and showed in their slides how one who is an NGO doing something on climate change, his office is already closed because the water is already there in his office, you know, and therefore they don't know what to do. And I think we have to think about that. What is and yet the adaptation fund that's supposed to support these kinds of communities, nothing, zero, nothing has really been sent to them, and I think that's an issue that's being discussed here in Bali. How can you really ensure that the obligations of those who have signed into the convention to contribute to the adaptation fund will be implemented? Because as it is right now, it's not implemented. Many developing countries, especially the poor ones, say that zero, they haven't received a single cent for adaptation. So that's one big issue. And then, of course, now there are many solutions that are being put into the table, and many of these are now being implemented. And that's, of course, an example of these are just the climate mitigation measures under the Clean Development Mechanism. And many indigenous people have come. In fact, we have a side event after this, which will talk about that, but I'll just briefly give you a preview. The mitigation measures being taken, like the sinks, carbon sinks, for instance, this has been, many of these sinks are being done in indigenous people's territories. And we have many reports of indigenous peoples being dislocated, displaced, evicted, harassed, and really physically driven out from their communities because this place has been carved out as a carbon sink. You know, and this has happened in Uganda, in India, in Ecuador, I mean, in many places in the world, even in some countries here in Asia and other countries. So that's one issue. The other issue is, of course, the expansion of alternative energy sources, and we are talking of biofuels, soybeans, corn. We have reports where, though here in Indonesia alone, you have a potential of something like 2-3 million indigenous people, Dayaks from Kalimantan, the ones from Sumatra, who are now going to be displaced because suddenly the government has decided that it will increase its production of palm oil to export to Europe because of their need for biofuels. And we really think that this is something that's totally unacceptable, because yes, you will earn income from exporting to Europe your oil, your biofuel, but at the expense of displacing indigenous peoples who have been living in those communities since time immemorial. And this is happening in the Kalimantan border, where this Kalimantan mega hydro oil palm project that will use 850 kilometers of land, you know, actually it's 1.8 million hectares of land. These are these are old forests. They will cut down the forest and produce oil palm, so they can produce that kind of demand by the north. So this is another issue in terms of the impact that we didn't contribute, but now our lands are being used to produce either alternative fuels or to produce so-called renewable energy. Hydroelectric dams are now classified as renewable energy. And so in India, in Northeast India alone, Arunachal Pradesh, 150 hydroelectric dams are in the pipeline. And the World Bank people were telling me that the investments that they have on hydropower, it was like that it went down in year 2000, now it's going up. And I have a whole list of hydroelectric power dams that are going to be built under the guise of renewable energy and carbon credits. So these are just some problems that are there. I think that the demands that are there, first, of course, in terms of adaptation fund, that this really should be given to the countries who are most vulnerable and who won't have any possibilities of surviving, you know, the hurricanes, all this increase in water level, salt intrusion into the land, which makes their lands non-productive. This has really to go to them, otherwise you will have, these people will be added into the 20 million that there is thinking of dying because of climate change. Secondly, I think the proposals of keeping the oil and the coal on the ground is really a proposal that is going to work. You know, I mean, we have to really support those who are pushing for these kinds of measures, because this is the contributions in terms of lowering carbon dioxide emissions will be substantial if we are going to keep those oil and coal in the ground and not allow them to be extracted. And then, of course, keeping the trees in the forest is another thing. And now there is there are the negotiations under so-called the reduced emissions from degradation and deforestation. And this is really a sad story a little bit, because we had a discussion with the European Union people who are negotiating the text. And they said that unfortunately the rights of indigenous peoples aren't there, safeguard mechanisms, safeguard policies aren't there, and COVID benefits also is not there. And this is really a shock to us, because how can you talk about this and not ensure that the rights of the forest dwellers and the forest-dependent indigenous people are protected when such kinds of measures are being taken? It's such a big thing now. The World Bank, as you know, is going to announce their Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, which is going to have $350 million, and there are all countries racing to do that. But indigenous peoples are saying that we never were consulted. At the time that there was a consultation with NGOs, they said and indigenous peoples are not invited because they don't understand this. This is too abstract for them, you know. So we really protested, and now the World Bank is wanting to undertake consultations with us. And in fact, because of the protests that we have launched, and I personally, as the chair of the forum, raised this with them. They are now willing to not to do an operational launch, that's what they said, of their facility, but just to announce it, and then they will have to undergo a consultation with us. So these are just a few points. I don't know if it's relevant to what we are talking about, but these are the things that we are very much concerned about. And I think if we talk of obligations and burdens, the indigenous peoples who have least contributed to this should have fewer burdens, and then the right to keep their forest, the trees in their forest, their oil or minerals in their land should really be supported, and they should be given rewards for these kinds of actions that they are taking. And I think those rewards are not yet forthcoming. And even this discussion of a facility will not work unless we ourselves are involved at the very outset, from the conceptualization up to the implementation.
very much.